Welcome to Poetry Changes Lives, my book of history, poetry, and a thought for the day, every day of the year. Here's the book. There is also a hardcover version of it as well. poetrychangeslives.com is the website, and if you go there you can read all sorts of other, I think, quite interesting articles about poetry, the therapeutic power of poetry, the way poetry has this amazing ability to change the way we feel. And you know, there was a time when I thought the only way I could change how I felt was by drinking half a bottle of whiskey. But it was quite a revelation when I discovered that reading a Shakespeare sonnet could change my mood very much for the better in a far more benign manner than a half a bottle of whiskey would do. And I'm eternally grateful for that discovery. I was a slow learner, and it took me a while to work it all out. But now I find poetry quite astonishing in the way it makes my day so much happier apart from anything else. If I read a poem each day, as I seem to do regularly these days, it makes my mood very much better. A lot of legitimate poets, and I'm not a legitimate poet, but people like Ted Hughes and W.H. Auden used to do just that. I mean, Ted Hughes famously used to read a Shakespeare play complete before breakfast each day at one time in his life. And Auden used to say reading a bit of poetry every morning was like saying his prayers. Somehow it opened up their creative sort of channels and started the creative juices flowing. I think it's a brilliant thing to do, and I recommend it to anyone. Well, on this day in 1832, a very great French painter, in my opinion, Édouard Manet, was born. He was a major influence on other artists, and equally he was very much influenced by earlier artists. He lived in Paris in a well-to-do family and was able to travel widely, visiting museums mostly throughout Europe, where he saw many of the old masters and later works that impressed him. People like Velázquez and Goya, Frans Hals in Holland, and you can see their influence in his work. He was greatly admired himself and knew all the Parisian art world pretty much of his time, the late 19th century. He knew Degas, Monet, Pissarro, Cézanne, and Renoir, and writers like Émile Zola, Stéphane Mallarmé, Charles Baudelaire. You know, there was a very famous group of absolutely stunning gathering of artistic talent in Paris at the end of the 19th century, the Belle Époque, it was rightly known as. And my goodness, it must have been wonderful to live there at that time. Many of Manet's paintings, such as the Déjeuner sur l'herbe, the painting that shocked Paris, was actually derived very much, if you compare it to Raphael's painting of, I think, the Three Graces or something like that. It's very similar in composition, and equally Manet's painting Olympia is based on the painting by Goya of the naked Maja, as it's called, painting of a courtesan in Spain. But, you know, so much of art is derivative. There's nothing wrong with that. Manet always brought something new and beautiful to the paintings that he was inspired by. Sadly, Manet, in spite of his many good influences in the art world, was unable to stay on this narrow path of what we might call morality. He contracted syphilis from several unsuitable liaisons and died at the age of 51 from complications derived from syphilis. A sad way to go, but he left us some very, very beautiful paintings. Today I'm going to read a poem by Christopher Marlowe, great Elizabethan poet, who this extract from his play, I think the Jew of Malta, is, I think, always reminds me of Déjeuner sur l'herbe. It talks about carpet spread on green fields and that sort of thing, rather like the composition of the Déjeuner sur l'herbe. See what you think of this. I think it's remarkably fine. But we will leave this paltry land and sail from here to Greece, to lovely Greece. I'll be thy Jason, thou my golden fleece. Where painted carpets o'er the meads are hurled, and Bacchus vineyards overspread the world. I'll be Adonis, thou shalt be love's queen. The meads and orchards and the primrose lanes, instead of sedge and reed, bear sugar canes. Thou in those groves by this above shalt live with me and be my love. Very beautiful imagery. Christopher Marlowe, in my opinion, wrote some of his stuff is as good as Shakespeare, in my view. So tragic that he met a untimely death at the age of only 36, I think, in a pub in Deptford. He was stabbed to death in a pub brawl, which was a very sad end for such a great poet and writer. Well, today I am grateful for the endless and uncomplicated pleasure that one can derive from simply viewing great works of art. I love doing that. I do it all the time. I can't get enough of it. I recommend it. Thank you for listening today.